G'day guys, and welcome to another Phil and Jen in the Philippines. I'm Phil, I'm currently in Australia, and this video is basically a mishmash of things that I think you should know. It may be beneficial if you're traveling for any period of time to the Philippines, or you've decided to stay in whatever for an extended period of time. As always, press the notifications, subscribe, comment. Only happy to see the comments, and we'll see how it goes. As I said, it's an amalgamation of little things I've thought of over the period of time that may assist you. Those of you guys that are going to the Philippines, and this is not everywhere, but it's something to keep in the back of your head, that are renting premises or consider renting premises. There's a couple of things that you should look out for, and it happens all over the Philippines, not with everyone. And that's when you rent a premises, before you say yes and sign on the dotted line, just check out a couple of small things. A lot of the premises that they have for rent don't have their own power meters. Now, obviously in larger apartment blocks they do, but it'd even be worthwhile to get into the habit of checking that as well. So check or ask your prospective landlord whether or not and where it is your power meter is, and whether it's separate, and make sure it's an actual power meter and not a relay unit. The reason for that is you may find in certain circumstances that not only you're paying for your own power if you haven't got a separate meter, you're paying for somebody else's, and that could be depending on the structure that you're renting. If it's a place new in the provinces and whatever, and it's a freestanding dwelling, you could be, without your knowledge, paying for the so-called security people that live on other parts of the land that you're renting, and they could be, draining power from you, and you're actually paying for it. You will find a number of them. What they'll say is we don't have a separate power unit, but we divide it up and whatever. That's unacceptable. I would steer away from that, because not only with the power, you've got to watch as well is Wi-Fi and things like that. You don't want to be, I know it sounds a bit tight and you think it's, I don't really care, but it does add up after a period of time, especially with Wi-Fi. If you let your codes go, there's every possibility every man and his dog will be using your Wi-Fi code, and you've only paid for a limited amount of Wi-Fi, and it's not unlimited, and so I'd keep that to myself. Even if Wi-Fi is offered, unless you're 100% comfortable that your bill is what you're paying for and that's what you're getting, and you can check it. There are ways of checking your consumption online, as most of you know, but be prepared in a freestanding dwelling not to allow, I'm not saying they're dishonest, anyone else to set up your Wi-Fi apart from yourself, because obviously when they set up Wi-Fi, they know the passcodes and this type of thing. That's one of the things that I thought was worth mentioning. The second thing is, when you get over there and you're trying to assimilate, there's a couple of idiosyncrasies in the Philippines you've got to get used to. And when you're cashed up, it doesn't really make that much difference. But after a while, it's an ongoing situation, and that's celebrations in the Philippines. You've met a lady online. They celebrate everything in the Philippines that they possibly can. That's why I suppose they're such a happy people. But in our culture, let's say, for instance, you arrive, they would expect once, especially if it's to a place where your wife or your girlfriend is residing, a welcome type situation where it's somewhat expected in the provinces that you, as the wealthier interloper, will come along and you'll put on a bit of a party, and you might be looking forward to that yourself, and you buy the lechon, and the lechon, the pig, is about 6,000 odd pesos, maybe more depending on the size, or less depending on the size. And then you bung on a little bit of food just to announce, hey, neighbours, I'm here. And that's totally acceptable, and you expect to pay that. But as I said, every celebration over there, everything is celebrated. And what occurs is, if there's a birthday comes up, a great deal of money is usually spent traditionally on birthdays. And then you've got Christmas, and then you've got all the other traditional ones. And I'll say this, they will look towards you to put this on. And of course, every time a celebration, most of the time in the Philippines, is not a celebration, or at least it's not a celebration in the south unless you have lechon. And 6,000 pesos after a while, is expensive. You've got to pay for the cooking, you've got to pay for the auxiliaries. 9 times out of 10, being a reasonable host, you'll put on a certain amount of booze. And after a while, it does wear thin if everyone continues to look at you to either contribute or put on these celebrations. So just be aware of that and don't go overboard in your zealousness to be accepted by putting your hand in your pocket, because they will take it, not advantage, but if you're willing to do it, they're willing to turn up and eat. The other strange thing is that I found, you'll put a birthday party on for a child or for a young adult or even yourself, and you invite all these people. Apart from the fact that you may invite 50, probably 100 will turn up, because this thing about invitation only, or the expectation of invitation only, doesn't really exist in the Philippines. They will bring their friends along, their neighbours, and they will partake and help you celebrate your birthday, which is a lovely, quaint thing to do. But don't expect presents simply because you're banging it on. One, they haven't got a great deal of funds. It's not a traditional thing to bring along presents unless you haven't a real strong relationship with whomever you're involved with. The majority of your guests will not bring presents, food or anything, unless it's requested by your girlfriend and whatever. They may bring some food. They'll probably partake of your alcohol until it runs down, and then they'll go and buy their own alcohol, and we'll all sit around. And don't really expect in these type of parties, so one thing I've run into a number of occasions where you think, I'll put the party on at 1 in the afternoon, everyone should be finished and home by 9. Yes, a lot of people will turn up and they will stay at the party as long as or until the food is served. They'll get feed and then disappear. And then you'll be left with X amount of people there. But, your expectations of everything finishing at 9 o'clock, well, let's say that doesn't happen very often. Whilst ever there's booze and whilst ever there's celebration going on, they will continue. And especially if there's karaoke, and it may go into, the early hours of the morning. Don't be afraid to say, okay, guys, all over, we've got to get to bed. I'm an old man, make a joke of it, whatever, on your merry way if it's getting too late. They'll usually accept that and they'll wander on. But if you don't say anything, that party could be going all night, all the next day, for as long as people feel comfortable there. Don't be surprised as well that if people come some distance and they've got on the booze, that you have to then provide them socially, as you would in countries like Australia and America, at least offer a number of the really heavy party goers some place to sleep. So, that it's not unusual after a party that there's bodies lying everywhere, and for a lot of us that happens in our home countries. But don't be surprised if you've got a lot of bodies lying everywhere, and then they get up in the morning, have hair of the dog, and then they filter off into the wilderness. Not so much, I would imagine, in the cities, but especially in the provinces. Now, this thing about not giving gifts, weddings, and a decent wedding, if you're very close to the people, a tradition is basically to pin money, if you have the spare money, on the bride, and it's I think it originates from Spain, where they cover the bride in a currency to assist them on their way. But it's only for the people that really can afford it and or have been able to borrow it. It doesn't happen at all weddings, but the same old party goers will be there, and they'll expect to be fed, and they'll bring their friends along, and so it's something to watch out for. On the other hand, too, you're not expected to bring anything to their party, so that may be a good thing if you're a social butterfly. So these are some of the little quirks and whatever that go on in the Philippines. You will have a really good time. Don't worry. Everyone will try to speak English with an accent. A lot of people there speak excellent English, but a lot of people will attempt to speak English to you and try to make you included in any celebration, so don't feel left out. Give karaoke a crack. You'll soon find out that the angelic voices that are supposed to come from the Philippines, and I've spoken about it before, are a bit of a myth, and it gets worse as people consume more alcohol, as with anywhere. But they will encourage you, even if you've got the lousiest voice in the world, no one will take the mickey out of you because you're a terrible singer, and that inclusiveness helps you bond within the community, and I think it'll do the world of good. It's a bit of fun anyway, that you can stand up there with a terrible voice and people will still applaud you. That's some of the good things about the Philippines. They're very, very open. I hate with previous videos that you would think that I am anti. I'm just, as I said, I keep saying, these are things that do go on there. No one's been able to say that they don't to me via the comments, but they do. It's something you've got to get used to. Once you get used to it and you modify your activity and their activity to an acceptable level, you'll have a great time. There's no doubt about that at all. Yes, it's noisy. Yes, you put up with the bikes and the chickens and the pigs, but take it from me, eventually you get used to it, unless you're very sensitive. And you can't really get away from it. You can go out into the country, into the mountains and whatever, and isolate yourself. But even then, you'll find from time to time, it will be noisy. So there are a couple of things that just came to mind and I thought you should know about. Celebrations, millions of them. They'll celebrate the opening of a fridge door. So for those of you who are staying, prepare yourself. I think you'll have a great time. Just check the electric meters because that can be a drain on you. And, just be sensible about it. Okay, it's Phil and Jen in the Philippines. Phil here. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.